Welcome back. I'm excited. We're on week 2 of the reboot, and today I'm planning to talk about mind hacks, just ways that you can rewire your brain to make you the ultimate learning machine that can power through this job search process. And when I say learning machine, not only learning the technical skills that you need, but learning how to learn and learning how to sort of hack your brain. So let's just jump into it. Imagine, if you would, a crisp morning. The sun is just beginning to rise over the horizon. 7 years ago, I was standing at the starting line of one of the most challenging journeys of my life, a 200-mile bike ride that would take me over 18 hours to complete, climbing more than 8,000 feet in elevation. And my heart was pounding, my legs were shaking, and I was filled with both excitement and fear. But I was not alone. I had told everyone I knew about this goal: family, friends, colleagues, people I cycle with. They were all cheering me on, at least in my brain, holding me accountable. I couldn't bear the thought of facing them if I failed or if I didn't finish. That public commitment that I made drove me to push harder over that 18-hour experience, to dig deeper, and ultimately to achieve something that I once thought was impossible. I mean, think about it: riding your bike for 18 hours, over 200 miles. Today, I want to talk to you about something even more challenging than cycling 200 miles, and it's pushing through to becoming a successful developer. Because I know it is super challenging, especially in this market. I've seen so many people feeling overwhelmed by the obstacles. The road ahead seems like it's super steep and there's hurdles. But just like my cycling challenge, I know you can do this. And the goal in this session is to equip you with powerful mental models and tools that will help you conquer these challenges, push through, and eventually achieve success in the industry. So, I'm going to share with you my powerful framework, and I'll take some questions along the way. And this framework, there's a mnemonic for it. It's GRITS. And so we're going to start on the first part of the framework, and that involves growth mindset. Imagine, if you would, cozy pottery studio filled with the earthy scent of clay and the soft hum of pottery wheels. Passionate pottery teacher decides to try an unconventional teaching method. The studio was already a haven for creativity, and the shelves filled with beautiful handcrafted pots of all shapes and sizes. And so the teacher, known for their innovative approach to teaching people pottery, gathers the students together for an experiment. The teacher announces that the class is going to get divided up into two groups. One group is going to be tasked with staying focused solely on developing pots of high quality. They're going to create perfect pots every time, paying meticulous attention to detail. The second group, however, is given a different directive, and that is focus on volume. Their goal was to create as many pots as possible within that same given time frame without worrying too much about perfection, right? So as the days pass, the quality of the group, you know, the ones focused on making the perfect pots, they craft their parts, they measure them, remeasure them, smooth the surfaces, strive for detail. They're doing all the stuff they can to make them just like perfect masterpieces. They face, frustrations as little minor imperfections. They feel like they ruin the work. And so they're forced to start over repeatedly, and their process was slow. The anxiety builds as they fear that their efforts aren't going to be enough for them to be, the winning group. Meanwhile, on the other side, the volume group, they're churning out pots at a rapid pace. Their workspace is chaotic. They've got half-made pots scattered everywhere. It's just a disaster area. So they make mistakes, but they don't dwell on them. Instead, they learn quickly from each of those errors. They move on to the next pot. And as their hands grow more steady, their creativity starts to flow freely. They experiment with different shapes and techniques. And then finally, the day of reckoning arrives. Teacher gathers both groups together to look at the work and compare the products. The quality group, they show their single perfectly craft pot. It's beautiful, right? It's a testament to that precision and dedication. But when the volume group displays their variety of pots, something surprising happened. Among the many pots, some were crude and folded in, others were very well made. The sheer number of pots, though, allowed the students to improve on each one, refining their skills through repetition and experimentation. Teacher smiles and says, "This experiment has revealed an important lesson. While striving for perfection has its merits, the pathway to mastery often lies in practice and learning from mistakes." The volume groups, many attempts allowed them to hone their skills, get quality through that quantity, and the quality group, although they produced beautiful end result, one beautiful pot, they missed out on some of that most valuable learning that comes when you repeat the process. So in the end, students realize that the journey of creating many pots leads to unexpected mastery. And the studio, of course, echoes with newfound wisdom, inspiration, sensing ghosts in their mind. So when we talk about growth mindset, I want to define that term. A growth mindset is the belief that our abilities can be shaped and developed over time. The opposite of that, and of course, it takes dedication and hard work. The opposite of that is going to be a person has a fixed mindset, which is a belief system that you are born or have certain abilities and you cannot get better or improve of them, at least in terms of like your skills and your mental acuity. So the difference between that fixed mindset of like, I can't learn this new thing or I can't do X, Y, or Z is very different than the approach that a growth mindset takes, which is it may take me 10,000 hours to master this, but it's inside of me. I have the ability to do this through enough effort, dedication, hard work. So when we look at that clay pottery story, we're really thinking about like how do we reframe not, enemy is the perfection of progress, right? Perfection is the enemy of progress, right? And trying not to focus so much on like making that perfect thing, but learning along the way and giving yourself the grace and patience because learning to code is hard. Learning service now is hard. And so you got to give yourself the grace to be able to say this isn't going to come quickly and I can do this. It's just going to take time. And that's like a constant thing you may have to remind yourself of. You may have to put a sticky note up on your you know mirror when you're brushing your teeth and just like reread the fact that like growth mindset is the very start of the framework. So think of overcoming these challenges not as obstacles but as stepping stones, right? Try and mentally envision that this is just a journey. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So never stop learning. Have that mentality, that growth mindset and action that, when I first started coding, I saw errors as failures. I had a very fixed mindset. Now I see them as it's a puzzle, it's a problem to solve. And that's really all we're doing when we're building solutions for clients. We're solving problems. So celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Try and build in that G, that growth mindset. Next, resilience. That's the R in grits. So when we talk about resilience, we're really talking about like how you bounce back from some kind of failure, right? And so what comes to mind when I think about failure is, you know, it's not always easy to, in the spur of the moment, jump back into actions and just be able to easily recover. And so I'm not saying that this is an easy thing to do, but it's a process that you have to kind of get used to. So, way back when I was in high school, many years ago, I can remember nice calm day. I'm at a track meet and I'm lined up on the starting line and I can see all the hurdles ahead of me. And I think to myself, okay, I can do this. Gun goes off and I'm sprinting as hard as I can, fast as I can. And everything is like going smooth. Like I'm in this flow state. And suddenly there's this crash. And the next thing I know, I'm like looking up from the perspective of the ground. And it's so confusing. I can kind of hear the crowd, making that weird noise they make when they see something like car wreck. And then I can taste the dirt and dust in my mouth from the clay track. And I realize, oh man, I just ate it and hit a hurdle. And so I kind of brush myself off and stagger up to my feet. And then in that moment, I kind of remember my coach saying, you only get into the hurdle club if you finish the race. So I trot the rest of the way, run across the finish line. And the next day at practice, the coach comes out, huddles the whole team, and says, I want to present this certificate to you. You are now officially a member of the hurdle club. And to this day, I still have a broken hurdle from that experience of hitting that hurdle, eating it completely, and then being able to sort of like get up and move on. And I think part of the story that our coach generated or created by giving us that sort of like, here's a little certificate to like, you know, brush the dirt off your shoulder and feel okay. It's embarrassing sometimes. You're going to do something in public that's just going to make you feel small, but it's really about how you bounce back. It's really about how you build that resilience. It's not a trait that most people are born with, but like we talked about before, it is a skill within a growth mindset that you can develop. And so the strategy around hacking this for yourself and building resilience is partly practicing self care, adopting some type of a reward or ritual for pushing through, and giving yourself a little bit of like a reward for making it to the end of a hard challenge, or pushing through and doing tasks that like may not be the funnest, but overcoming those inevitable challenges that we face one at a time, and not thinking of it as like I got to accomplish this entire mission all in one go. And instead, that R, having resilience, is really about the bounce back. It's about the getting up, finishing the race. Okay, so we got G, growth, R, resilience. The next is initiative. Initiative. That's the ability for you to take charge, make things happen. And so when we're looking at initiative, it's really the thing that's going to, again, spur that growth, spur that opportunity for you to not only overcome, but introduce new and different opportunities, whether it's driving your own learning and creating your own pathway to like hit the parts that are the areas where you got to get stronger on, or it's just powering through the job search, right? And so when I in the past, when I've encountered situations where I'm on the job and I'm feeling like I'm a little a little over my head, what I try and do is come up with a way where I can take small baby incremental bites out of the apple and try and figure out how I can be a proactive problem solver instead of being reactionary. And so I think really that need for taking initiative and standing out is going to help mentally prepare you for that resolve that you need to not only be resilient and have that growth mindset, but recognize opportunities and see each of the challenges as a way to overcome, sometimes create the opportunities for yourself. by taking initiative, creating opportunities for you to get small wins, and then acting on them. Right, setting a goal that you know is going to be tough, like identifying some gaps that you have, or trying some new solutions or tactics or techniques, and then really actively seeking out, like, how do I challenge myself? Right. So here's some other practical things that you can try. Not just setting personal goals, but creating a plan to achieve them. So a lot of times we talk about like SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, SA. Oh man, I'm terrible at spelling in the air. Um, Attainable, time based, right? So you want to set, but also create, give yourself that grace, create a plan for how do you achieve them, right? So next thing is seeking out mentors, right? Find some new opportunities for things that you can do by, again, networking. Take the initiative on a project to contribute to open source, right? These are all opportunities for you to harden that skill. Again, initiative is that ability to take charge, make things happen. And proactive problem solvers are the ones who thrive in tech, right? You don't need to wait for opportunities, just need to get out there and create them. So identify your gaps, propose solutions, act on opportunities. Again, grit, growth, resilience, initiative. We're at T, tenacity. Man, tenacity is one of those, I guess the definition is determination, right? To achieve your goals no matter what the obstacles are. And when I think about tenacity, it's really about pushing past projects or pushing back past problems, right? And so I often think that technical projects and the job search just requires, unwavering persistence. And so having that like ability to cultivate your own tenacity is super important. And this is just like not this is again not short sprint focused, but instead it's long-term goals. Tenacity is maintaining over a long period of time, which is very different than like short bursts of let's hit these three milestones. It's setting clear goals, figuring out what your plan is, and then maintaining that motivation and embracing that like never give up attitude, right? So you want to be ready and able to push through no matter how tough it gets. So practical tips, things that you can do to develop your tenacity muscle. The first is breaking down your goals into small, manageable steps and then celebrate your wins, right? Because you're going to need that to push you along and get you, further along than you were before. Remind yourself constantly. So again, this is the in your brain, the way you hack your mind is constantly remind yourself of why you need to maintain focus and drive. What will happen if you don't? And so one of the things you can do is, like I said, take a post-it, put it up on your bathroom wall, but also put a post-it up on your computer, put a post-it up on your refrigerator to help you drive through everywhere you go. You keep seeing this repeated message, and that will help you to maintain that focus and that drive. So again, tenacity is that determination over a long period of time to achieve your goals. We're not talking about the small, just getting over things. We're talking about building a mentality that means pushing forward and persisting until you succeed, until you get all the way to the finish line. It's how you stay committed long term. So break it down, celebrate your victories. Imagine this. I've discovered a passion for cycling. It's more than just a hobby, it's becoming a mission. And I set an ambitious goal. I want to earn a triple crown, which means completing not just one, but three double century rides. Each of them 200 miles. We've covered that. 18 hours, usually 8,500 feet or more in elevation. The moment I commit to that goal, I knew it would require an extraordinary effort. So I spend like 6 months training, clocking in countless hours at the bike each week. I get a trainer at the gym. I start watching what I eat. I'm not drinking as much Coke. And then there's one crucial element that made all the difference in the world. That's the last part of grids. I shared my goal with everyone I could. As I delve deeper into the training, the enormity of that challenge became clear. Each training session pushes me to the limit. And there were a lot of times where I was fatigued, I was tired, and doubt starts to creep in. Like, can I do this? But every time I felt like quitting, I remembered all the people I had told about my goal: friends, family, cycling buddies. Everyone's in the loop, and they're checking in, right? They're watching when I post on Strava. They're asking, "Hey, did you ride to work this week? How many times did you ride to work?" And man, the ride to work was like 35 miles, so 70 miles back and forth. And so it was a chore. And they're all sort of like creating this feedback loop, or it feels like everybody's asking. Everyone is like trying to check in on how I'm progressing. And I don't know if that's good, that they're hoping that I'm gonna, fail, or if they're just like, really rooting for their success and invested in my life. So I'm posting rides on Facebook, I'm talking about my goals, I'm sharing updates, and that builds public accountability. I realized I couldn't bear the thought of letting everybody down, or explaining why I didn't finish a race, or why I'd quit and not gotten the full, 3 rides in. Every time someone asked me about my progress, it just reignited that determination. Knowing people that were watching, that were rooting for me, that were trying to keep track of where I was and if I had done the actual events, each question and word of encouragement was a little push, propelling me towards the toughest days. And so, month after month, all this relentless training, I complete the first double century, then the second, about a month apart, and then the third, about another 1 or 2 months after that. And each ride was grueling, pushing me to my physical. I remember waking up in the middle of the night with my legs just locked in like a cramp, middle of the night, after a long ride. And I just never quit. I achieved the goal. I earned a triple crown without getting disqualified or jumping into a SAG vehicle and getting taken to the end of the road. And it took all that public accountability to keep me going. Sharing the goal turned that personal challenge into more of like a community effort. And that sort of support helped fuel the journey. So set big goals, and then make sure you've got accountability partners. You've got people that you don't want to fail. You don't want to let them down. That public accountability turns your personal goals into sort of like a community triumph. And again, that's the S part. The S part to this is sharing and getting support. Support is about leveraging a network of people to help you achieve your goal. Support in this particular context is like support for professional development, right? In tech, having that strong support network can make all the difference between navigating the challenges and staying motivated, and just quitting silently and no one knowing that this has been something that you've been working towards. So, build a support network. I talk about a lot in my book, Hacking the Job Search. I talk about networking, talk about a lot of the other things that I've mentioned. Not necessarily this framework, but building that support network involves finding those mentors, finding those peers, finding the community that aligns with your goals, and again, rewiring your brain to know, if I fail at this, it's going to be embarrassing and awkward. So I better just kick in that last little bit and push through, right? So be proactive, ask for feedback, ask for advice from people from that support network. Encourage people to sort of like follow your journey, right? We talk a lot about passion projects and about marketing yourself and making sure. In our last session, we talked about branding. And so, don't be afraid to, ask people to come along in your journey. It shows strength, not weakness, to ask for help and ask people to sort of like pitch in. So my pause here covered covered grit, which is growth, resilience, initiative, tenacity, and building support. I think if you use that grits formula to sort of again get your brain thinking instead of that fight or flight, everything's negative, like you just go through it enough, get yourself enough practice with each of these that it's not cake. It's not easy. But like Lamont says, never gets easy. You do go faster. All right, I'm gonna open it up. I'm gonna take some questions. I haven't looked yet to see. Hopefully, I haven't missed a ton of comments and questions and concerns, but I do want to get to some of your questions. So if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. Also, drop where you're at, like where you're. I know there's a little bit of delay, so it'll take me a little while to see some of these. But I'm curious who's out there, who's listening as we start to reboot these things. Is this helpful? Right? What are some topics that you want me to cover next? So I've given you this framework, right? And man, there's a great. I'll have to see if I can dig it out of the vault. There's a great video that my boy Justin Renfro, he talks about staying positive, and that was a pro tip that I got from him. Putting those post-it notes all over the place. So Jonathan, it's gold. I'm telling you. We had those all over the classroom at one point. All the students were putting post-it notes all over the place, but it works. It keeps it top of mind, and it helps with accountability because when people see you put up the goals, they're like, okay, what are you doing? I see you got this little goal here. Where are we at? So drop me a comment. Let me know, is this helpful? Is this information resonating? Do you feel like it's adding value in your job search? If so, please uh, smash that subscribe button. We're trying to get to the point where we get to monetize our YouTube. Remember, we're a nonprofit, so the more we can bring in, the more we can hire people and give people their first opportunity to work in tech, whether that's as a TA, an instructor, an apprentice. We're also going to be launching some new opportunities for folks. The book's out there. The audiobook is on its way. I've literally recorded about 50% of it. I need a couple more days to get the rest of it banged out and get it edited. So maybe we have something by after the weekend. Let's see. We'll see if I can power through. It really kind of depends on. I don't know if you guys have been hearing the construction. There's a construction across the street, so sometimes I gotta quit early, and I'm usually up super early. I'm usually up at like 5 a.m. I'm at my desk, ready to work at 5:30, and these folks are rolling up with their diesel engines idling right outside my window at like 5:45. I'm not a happy camper when I'm like, okay, I got 15 minutes of recording today. Yeah, it's not good. So tell me, leave me a copy or leave me a comment in the channel there. Where are you at? How did you hear about this? Like, is this something that you heard of from a friend? Um, Corey, love hearing that you love this. Yeah, I just want to make sure this is like super helpful. Jan, I see you. It was kind of fun in the meeting this morning to see Jan and Shan. Like, man, like this is good. Um, yeah, if I have some questions come through, I'll hang out for a little bit. If we don't have questions, we're gonna probably wrap this thing up. And then my goal is to get these all up on our YouTube channel so that you can share it with other people that might miss the live sessions. But it would be really great if over the next, I don't know, weeks as we start to reboot this, that we get more people coming with questions because I'd love to just sit and just answer questions. It makes it much easier than me preparing slides and all that kind of stuff. Although I haven't been doing slides, but you know what I mean. Like the grits framework, I think that's a phenomenal like growth hack or mind hack. Um, so yeah, so I just want to make sure I'm adding value for people and making sure that people are getting a chance to make their journey into their first tech job, make that journey as short as possible. You need to have the skills, you need to be able to brand yourself, you need to actually follow a process. There's some high yield activities and things that you can do that are going to be really helpful. And then there are some things that are just going to be complete wastes of your time. And so get the book, get the free book because it's all outlined in there. Like all the secrets are revealed. And then if you just do those things, I swear to God, if you just do those things in the book, you will land a job. I 1000% can guarantee you. I can guarantee you, you will land a job. It, I can't tell you whether it's going to take you 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years. But if you do those things, it's going to take you less time than if you don't. So, I see a question from Jonathan. When you were applying for jobs, was there a period you didn't hear back for a while? How do you keep yourself from the doom spiral that takes you off track? Yeah, I always think about it as it's a sheer number game, and you have to like, once you let that thing go and it's out there, there's nothing you can do to control it. So again, in those mental hacks, as you start thinking about it, you have to compartmentalize. If there's nothing you can do, you really should try and every time you start to feel that worry and concern, process it in a different way than you might be processing it now, which is like you're letting it stress you out. But if you can't control it, it's kind of like salespeople do a great job at that, at this. And they basically will make a call, someone will hang up on them, yell at them, scream at them, whatever it is, and they end the call. And if they're a good salesperson, they just pick that call up and they're just like, I got to make 300 dials. So that was dial number one. I got 299 left. And so I think if you approach it that way, I think if you don't get emotionally involved in each job application you put in each interview you have, it's hard. I'm not saying this is easy. This is the part that people get stuck on because it's not like your coding where there's just like there is two or three different ways to write this code and it either works or doesn't work. It's either testable and maintainable or it's spaghetti code. It's very black and white. Controlling your emotions and how you react and respond to the really challenging scenario is much more difficult. And so I know it's tough, but the best thing you can do to avoid these like negative spirals is to stay positive and to only worry about things you can control. You can't control whether they're going to respond back to you. And keep in mind that in many cases, it's just there's a tight, narrow window where there's going to be a good fit and you've done everything to lead up to getting that, next stage after you submit the application is going to be a phone interview, usually a phone screening. Um, not everybody's going to get that. And so you got to take your best shot, shoot your shot, and then you got to move on. That's, just rattle as many of them off. Then the next thing you're going to do after you get a phone interview, you're going to follow up, send a thank you letter. You use the donut trick, right? Send them a box of donuts and thank you card, handwritten. Swear to God, every time I say these things, there's only a small percentage, like 1%, one out of every 100 or 1,000 people will actually buy the donuts, send them to the company with a handwritten thank you note. But like, what does a box of donuts cost? $20? Stamp is what, like, I don't know, 40, 50 cents now? It was like 10 cents when I was a kid. And then you literally can, like, from your computer, you can just DoorDash someone some Dunkin' or Starbucks, whatever, wherever you are. And then sit back. Tell me if you've ever worked in an office when donuts arrive, the excitement that's on people's minds melt. It's I know you can't buy everybody donuts, but you're not going to have interviews with everybody. So, like, if you get a phone screening and you feel like, okay, I want to increase the odds, that's something you can control. You can control sending a handwritten thank you letter. How many handwritten thank you letters do you think HR recruiters get? I'm gonna tell you, they get none. So if you do that, you stand out. Now, you have to have the other pieces, but if you're looking for ways to stand out, those are things you can control. Those are things you can control. Donut tricks and all that's an old sales thing too. Trying to get it past the gatekeeper and get to an executive. You send the executive assistant some donuts, but it works in the job search process too. It's all about separation, right? It's how you separate yourself from everybody else. It's a creative way for you to just like stand out from the pack. All right, George, thank you. Thank you for spending your time with us. The other way you can thank me is hit that subscribe button. Let's get to what is it, 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 hours, and then yeah, if YouTube gods are with us and everything just takes off, then man, if I got thousands of dollars every month, there's a couple more people I can hire. Y'all can make that happen. You all can make that happen. For those of you, I don't mention this all the time, but for those of you who are kind of rebooting, rewarming this up, I guess I'll reset the room. We are Creating Coding Careers is a nonprofit. We're based here in Southern California, but we help people all across the U.S. We run a Department of Defense Skill Bridge program. We run a Department of Labor Registered Apprenticeship program. We run a California registered apprenticeship program. We have a pre-apprenticeship program in California. Again, if I didn't mention, we're a nonprofit. We don't charge anything to any students for any of those things. We will have some opportunities for folks to donate moving forward, but not for jobs. There'll be just other opportunities for people at all of the different levels of like what kind of support do you need. Everything from like there's a free ebook. At some point, we're going to have courses. At some point, we'll have one-on-one coaching. So as those things start to become reality, I'll certainly make announcements to the community. But I'm just all about getting more people into as many new tech roles as we possibly can. Because what's better than that? What's better than seeing folks that look like you when you're in the office, right? And yeah, we gotta make that happen. Nice. If you just got here, you should check out the channel. I did this for like a couple years straight. We're just rebooting this. We're warming this up. This is like allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Mike Roberts, and I help people transition into careers in coding. So the name of the company is Creating Coding Careers, and I don't see any other questions. So I'm gonna fade off like Homer Simpson into the shrubs, and I will see you all next week.